Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call to order the City Council meeting for August 19, 2025, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Beck, can we do a roll call, please?
Mayor Monguette,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wong,
Hello.
Councilor Barnes,
Good evening.
Councilor Friedland,
Here.
Councilor Gallegos,
Good evening.
Councilor Samuelson,
Good evening.
and Councilor Tapia Vega. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to excuse Councilor Tapia Vega due to a work-related conflict.
All right, we have a motion to excuse Councilor Tapia Vega.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None opposed. That motion passes unanimously. Great. All right. We'll kick off today's meeting with public input. This is an opportunity for you to address the council for 5 minutes regarding whichever topic you may choose. Please fill out one of these white speaker forms that you can access through the glass doors in the back if you choose to do so. And then you can pass it over to Clerk Beck here and we can get you on the list. Please state your name and address before you speak, and you may also call in as well.
Mr. Mayor, how many speaker forms do we have?
7?
I'm wondering, or I'd just like to ask the council to see if maybe we could look at considering moving up the appointment for the Lafayette Youth Advisory Commission to the top of the agenda, since we have a number of students here for that, rather than going through the consent and public comment. Again, I'm open. I just figured since we have a number of students here, and it is a school night now, if we'd like to make that change.
Okay, thank you. So Mayor Pro Tem is suggesting that change in the agenda. How does council feel about that? Are we okay with it? Is that fine? Okay, we'll save public comment for a few minutes here and move forward with council appointments. These are the council appointments for the Lafayette Youth Advisory Board and its members. Councilor Gallegos, I know, coming up a little bit sooner than you expected, but are you
That's
ready?
okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
So it was a privilege to be a part of the interview and application process for next year's Youth Advisory Board. And myself and city staff members have come to the recommendation of 11 applicants to move forward with a one-year term appointment. This is an excellent group of kids. I'm so impressed with their interviews, everything they spoke about. They're spot on, willing, and ready to serve. So I'd like to move forward with these 11 members. I also wanted to mention that this is one of our more diverse groups. This year, our 11 applicants represent 5 different schools, including the neurodiverse and homeschool communities. So that is a very exciting change for this year. All right, so I move to approve the appointment of Abigail Aguirre Garcia, David Brady, Francesca Hood, Grace Pilarski, Indy Jones, Libby Wheelock, Mason Whitman, Philippa Chittenden, Shabani Senthi Kumar, Stella Knight, and Vandy Wang to the Lafayette Youth Advisory Board for a term of 1 year, beginning September 3rd, 2025, and ending August 31st, 2026.
Awesome. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. I'll just quickly add, the Lafayette Youth Advisory Commission, or now the Lafayette Youth Advisory Board, has been, part of the city for decades now and has done a lot of great work and at many times does a lot actually is much more active than most youth boards throughout the state of Colorado and has been recognized through awards because of all that hard work. I personally served on the board for 5 to 6 years, and it was a great start for me to really get involved in the community. So shout out to all of you for taking it. We haven't voted yet, but big shout out to all of you for taking that step forward and wanting to give back to your community. So we're going to go ahead and vote here, and then after that vote, if it shall pass, we'd love to invite you up here for a photo with the city council. All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? None opposed. That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Congratulations.
With us.
I'm lining up, sitting back here. You sitting up on the dais?
I'm just trying to figure out, does it look better first?
Maybe. I don't know. How do you all usually do that?
Okay. Well, usually I'll come from, there's so many of
But
us.
there's so many of them.
Squish. We'll squish. We
Are
can
we
do it.
squishing?
All right, we're gonna come to the front. Can you? Yes.
Here, Nicole, come
You
over here.
let us know, Elizabeth.
All right. I'm just
You
going
got
to
a
take
spot?
many, many, many of these. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
It's not. I thought it was 7. I didn't see the gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, of course. Okay. All right, well, that brings us now back to public input. The members of the community that were here for the youth advisory appointments, you are more than welcome to stay or head out. It's up to you. You can hang out for as long as you'd like. But now we need to get back to public input, and so I will open that up. Please let us know if you'd like to speak. So tonight we'll begin with Paul Eckert.
Good evening, all. Mr. Mayor, council members. As you might recall, I was here 2 weeks ago and chose not to rattle on. Rather, I left a binder, and I think by now I'm informed that all of you have had a chance to review the information that I left in the binders. My reason for showing up tonight is that I'm looking for resolution. I'd like to ask the council or the city manager, as I understand the hierarchy here, mayor, city council, city manager, and the planning and building department. But I'd like to request that someone speak to the planning department and building department about this situation and see if we can't immediately get a permit issued for this little building we want to build. Just a little background for everyone. We're not asking to build the Empire State Building here. This is not a difficult issue. It's a small shed of 120 square feet that has no effect whatsoever on the area. It's just there. Has no detrimental effects on the area, not the landscaping, not the drainage, not the existing architecture, no traffic, no foot traffic, no required setbacks, no color schemes, existing buildings, or the environment in general. It has no effect on any of it. It's just sort of a non-entity. And we've been at this for 2 years and 3 months at this point. That's unheard of. In my tenure as a builder for some 40 years, I've never seen it, never heard it. I've never been faced with this kind of situation in my life. I don't know why. And rather than castigate the members of the Planning Commission and tell you of all the things I think they've done wrong, I'd really like to respectfully ask that someone, somehow, get to the Planning Commission, the Building Department, and direct them to issue a permit for the building of this small shed. And one other small item is that 2 years and 3 months ago, I sent this application in, along with an application to renew my contractor's license. That has never been addressed. I have not heard a single word in 2 years and 3 months as to whether or not it will be addressed, whether or not they'll renew it, what I should do to renew it, so on and so forth. I don't understand that kind of recalcitrance from a planning or building department. I'd like to have that issue addressed as well, because I'm going to, of course, need to build my contractor's license in the city of Lafayette, which I've held before, to build this little shed, which will take me all of about 2 days. That's basically all I have to say. I just implore someone on this council to please direct me, get me there, get someone to issue this permit, and let's move along. I'm under tremendous pressure from Circle K. They've been talking, well, should we get our lawyers? No, this is not an issue that needs to get exacerbated like that. This is a very simple issue. So, again, please, if someone could take the information that you've been given, peruse it, call me, ask me any questions you like, I'll answer them. Let's see if we can't get this moved forward. I do need the permit. I'd like to build that shed and get on with my business. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Laura Webb.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Laura Webb. We live at 1289 Ptarmigan Court in Lafayette. And you might remember I was here last meeting bringing some neighborhood concerns about vegetation management for fire mitigation in the Rothman open space. And I came to say thank you for the very quick response of city government. The day after the meeting, I had a nice phone call from Councilor Friedland. I think the subsequent day, I looked out my window and I'm guessing I could see Fire Chief Bradshaw and open space, council open space committee members out there investigating things. And then I think maybe 2 days later, all this was by perhaps Friday after the meeting, I got a very detailed response from, I think it's our open space director, Dennis Warrington, addressing every point, you know, very, very carefully. The consensus is that that grove of trees that everyone knows at the north end of the Rothman open space isn't particularly a high fire danger, and it's because it has storm drainages flowing into it. So at least in the wetter months, it stays relatively moist and the trees are mostly healthy. There were some very quick actions taken. A big fallen tree was cleared out of the grasses just south of that grove of trees, and a big pile of, I don't know if it was sawed wood or broken wood, probably piled up by kids, I think, playing in there, was removed. The letter did acknowledge a lot of the dead branchy material I was talking about and other ladder fuels in the open space, and that this material would present greater risk as things dry out in the fall and in the winter season. There weren't any immediate plans to mow along, not surprisingly. I can't imagine you can mow along all the city fence lines, but to mow along that fence line or take other mitigating actions. We do hope in the future that the city will develop more comprehensive policies for decoupling all the city's open spaces from the built-up area. Responsible stewardship of those open spaces just keeps all of us safer. I do plan to attend, there's a community workshop on August 27th that I think is going to involve Boulder Wildfire Partners, as well as our fire department and open space representatives. So I suspect you may see me again, but I feel lucky you are running such a tight ship and we seem to have such a responsive city government. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Next up is Kenny Vasco.
Hi, everybody, members of the council, Mr. Mayor, everybody in the room. My wife and I own Doghouse Music Studios, which is south of South Boulder Road, or as I call it, So-So Borough. And we have been part of the Lafayette arts community for 6 years now. Last week, the largest supporter of the arts in the city was the Lafayette Fire Department. Because we had a brush fire that came within 50 feet of our studio on Courtney Way and Old Laramie Trail. And I am here to personally thank the Lafayette Fire Department for responding so quickly and professionally to put it out. It was very emotional for my wife and I to see a fire that close to our building, a place where 600 musicians a year come to rehearse, record, whether they are practicing for Red Rocks or getting ready for their niece's quinceañera. It's just a very big community space that we are very lucky and honored to run. And I wanted to personally thank the Lafayette Fire Department for their efforts. That's all I wanted to say. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Next up, we have Bob Magin.
Carol Williams and I are here. If it's appropriate, we can share the same 5 minutes.
If you'd like to share your time, that's appropriate, yes.
Great. Evening, Mayor, Councilors. My name is Bob Megan, 716 South Longmont Avenue, and I'm one of your appointed advisors for older adults. And I've been serving your Senior Advisory Board since 2009. And here with me is Associate.
Yes, I'm Karen Williams, and I live at 410 West Geneseo Street, Geneseo Street in Lafayette, and I've been on the board since 2015.
This evening, we would like to advise you from our experience on this board that the proposal to set a 3-term limit on the current Senior Advisory Board members is not helpful. I like to follow the maxim, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. When I first heard of this 3-term limit proposal, I was asking myself, what's broken with our board that requires a 3-term limit? I'm not saying that there haven't been issues over the past 16 years in my tenure that needed fixing. One fix that the council did make last year was scheduling an onboarding workshop where we experienced an overview of our responsibilities as quasi-representatives of the city. Looking back to 2009, I would have appreciated an in-depth, comprehensive overview of what an advisor should do and, more important, should not do. I applaud our city staff in providing this experience for us. We believe this was a helpful fix. Another issue with our board that has needed fixing was an effective recruitment process. Jack Duffy, the advisor who recruited me back in 2009, told me there's an unwritten expectation that if you're leaving the board, you needed to try to recruit your replacement. That's how I first heard of Senior Advisory Board from Jack, and he introduced me to Mary Lester, then Senior Services Supervisor. And quite frankly, there hasn't been a long line of applicants over these past years. And our issue is maintaining full board membership. That's what needs to be fixed. Last year, we had a booth at the Older Adult Resource Fair, and we were able to recruit a member there. This year, the city has instituted a recruitment fair where all boards who have vacancies can be present, and applicants can meet current members and learn more about what's involved in each board. Applicants can then make an informed decision as to how they can best use their time and talent to serve our community. Having a consistent recruitment process will help all boards, we believe. This, too, is a very helpful fix. But as far as why we, Senior Advisory Board, need a 3-term limit, we can't imagine what this is fixing. We've been replacing members who leave through attrition in my tenure, and finding suitable, willing replacements has always been our issue. If the proposed 3-term limit were put in effect, we would have to replace 40% of our current experienced members for the next 2 years. This would be a significant loss of institutional experience and knowledge. Each of our members has a richness of life experiences that can be of value to the older adult population in our community, and it is from this perspective that we advise City Council. 3-term limits might be helpful for other city commissions and boards. And if this is what you decide to do, we're advising you to consider another exception, as you did for Eliab, well, I called it, I guess it's Eliab now, where their term length was accepted. Our suggestion is you grandfather the current experienced members on our senior advisory board from that 3-term limit to serve the older adult community. We aren't broken, somewhat mobility impaired, perhaps, but we can continue to represent our older adult community's needs in our advice to you. Now, Karen has something to share.
Yes. I have a public service announcement from the August issue of Aging Well in Boulder County. This is an alert for extra help beneficiaries. Some Medicare Part D beneficiaries will need to act to keep their extra help benefits in 2026. Starting in early September, Social Security, SSA, and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, will be sending letters to some Medicare beneficiaries regarding the status of their Medicare Part D extra help benefits. If you are a Medicare beneficiary who receives one of these letters and does not respond to this September mailing, you risk losing your 2026 extra help benefits. Look for the title, Social Security Notice to Review Eligibility for Extra Help. Forms must be completed and returned within 30 days. Keep all notifications for your records. And the reason we brought this up is because, like my father, he has macular degeneration and he needs somebody to read his mail. And so we're just trying to get the news out. It's very important that somebody doesn't put it aside and not fill it out. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention.
Of course, thank you. Okay, next up, we have Wilco Conning.
Sorry about that. Hi, Mayor, City Council. I'm here. My name is Wilco Koning, and I live in the Silo neighborhood, 891 Faro Way. And I'm here tonight because I, along with many of my neighbors in this new neighborhood and other Lafayette residents, am deeply concerned about the proposed 124-room extended stay hotel right next to our residential community. When I say right next to our residential community, it's 30 feet from our school bus stop for my kids who are in this room. And it's within 200 feet from the first homes in our house, in our community. This location is simply not appropriate for a development of that size and type. Let me highlight a few reasons why. First, safety. Again, this site is 30 feet from our children's school bus stop. An extended stay hotel with constant turnover means strangers and heavy vehicle traffic in the very place where our kids gather every morning. That is a risk we cannot ignore. Second, traffic and congestion. A hotel this size could generate over 1,000 of vehicle trips daily on neighborhood streets that were never designed to handle that kind of commercial traffic. And the worst part, at all times of day. It's not a store that's open from 10 a.m. till 5 or 8 p.m. This is a hotel where people can come and go 24/7 at all times of day. We are sleeping within 200 feet of this property, and we're gonna have all of these people like driving along our homes. We just can't have that. Third, it undermines the character of our neighborhoods. Lafayette is known for its family-friendly, community-centered living. This is why we moved here. We absolutely love Lafayette, and we want our kids and us to live here for decades to come, all of which erode the stability, or having an extended stay hotel next to homes often lead to noise, light pollution, and increased crime and safety concerns, all of which erode the stability and value of the neighborhood we've invested in. Finally, this project is inconsistent with good planning. A 124-room hotel is not a neighborhood scale. It doesn't serve the community that lives right next door. It makes our community worse. We understand the need for growth, but we need to focus commercial building next to neighborhoods to be resident-focused. Shops, cafes, restaurants, breweries, any of the above are much better suited commercially zoned businesses that make sense within a couple 100 feet from where people live. Not a hotel with people that aren't even from here, that don't care about our community. We are not against development, but we are against development in the wrong place. I urge the council, together with a lot of the people in our neighborhood, we signed a petition, we handed it in. I urge the council to protect our neighborhoods and reject this proposal. Thank you for your time and commitment to the safety and livability of Lafayette.
Thank you. All right. And finally, we have Adam Gianola.
Good evening, council. I'm Adam Gianola. I live at 311 North Cherrywood Drive in Lafayette. I am also a member of the Sustainability and Resilience Advisory Board, as most of you probably know. We had our most recent meeting this past Thursday, where we had a presentation about the Boulder County Climate Equity Fund. And I'm going to pass around some information for you about that. I'm mostly here just to share information about it. This is a new grant initiative from Boulder County, and it's a lot of money. It's $2.5 million that they're planning to grant in the year 2025. But unfortunately, the grant application window started on August 1st and ends on September 15th. So now is the time for us to share information and get money into our community. The fund is really in favor of community-led efforts that promote environmental justice, sustainable practice, and climate resilience, things that the city's working pretty hard on. The folks that can apply are more in the line of resident-led initiatives, neighborhood associations like mobile home parks or HOAs, low-income housing, but other organized groups can also apply, such as nonprofits, tribal entities, mutual aid networks, public schools and school districts, and I think the city is also eligible to apply in partnership with some of these other informal groups. The goal is really to empower these frontline communities who kind of face the most impacts from environmental and climate issues, to help them with solutions that could improve their resilience and adaptation to the changing climate long term. We've heard about a few ideas that this grant could support, such as weatherization, heat pump installations, insulation, other low carbon projects, improvements for renters and income qualified homeowners, community solar, microgrid, resilience hub, as well as natural landscapes and other kind of nature-based solutions like rain gardens, shade tree planting, permeable pavement, really focused on kind of neighborhood adaptation. So the information that I provided is just a brief summary and frequently asked questions about the Climate Equity Fund. So I ask that you share this with the community, ask staff to share it with the community and get involved however possible. I'm happy to answer questions after the meeting. So thank you for your time.
Of course, thank you so much. Okay. So that's all the speaker forms that I see in front of me for tonight. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? No? All right, I'm double checking online as well, and I do not see any callers. So with that, we will close public input. and move forward with the consent agenda. That includes item A, August 5th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. Item B, resolution number 25-44, calling an election on November 4th, 2025, and designating the city clerk of the city of Lafayette as the city's election officer and authorizing the city clerk to enter into and carry out the terms of an intergovernmental agreement with Boulder County Clerk and Recorder for the conduct and administration of the 2025 coordinated election. Item C, resolution number 2025-45, authorizing the assignment of the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority of a private activity bond allocation for Lafayette pursuant to the Colorado Private Activity Bond Ceiling Allocation Act. Item D, contract with Tradesman Elevator LLC, Library Elevator Modernization. Item E, change order number 6, Castle Rock Construction Company of Colorado LLC, South Boulder Road Multimodal Improvement Project, final quantity reconciliation. And item F, change order number 7, Castle Rock Construction Company of Colorado LLC, South Boulder Road Multimodal Improvement Project, a ratification of mediated settlement. Are there any items that council would like to pull? None? Well, if not, we'll take a motion, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? None opposed. That passes unanimously. Okay, and we did get through the council appointments already earlier this evening, so that brings us to presentations. We have one presentation tonight. This is on the board, commission, and committee term limits, follow-up discussion from our previous meeting.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for that introduction. As stated, I'm here with a brief presentation regarding follow-up items for the board, commission, and committee term limits discussion. This was a continuation of the discussion that was held at your last meeting on August 5th, where we did receive some council direction to move forward with three-year term limits for boards and commissions, but left the question of implementation to tonight. So we prepared some options for your consideration and discussion, outlined potential impact analysis of those numbers of board members that might be impacted from the term limit options, and then we'll outline some next steps and turn it over to council for discussion and direction. So the options for discussion this night, for tonight, as outlined in your packet, are as follows. The first would be to implement these term limits retroactively. So look at all the currently appointed members, look at the number of terms that they've served, and if they've served 3 or more, consider them effectively term limited. The second would be to do that, but allow one grace term. So regardless of whether they fall, as long as it's in what would be considered their final term, giving them the option to serve one more because this would be a change since they were appointed. And then the final option is option 3, which would be to implement term limits moving forward and effectively not look back at those terms that have been served already and count them towards the limit. To do this analysis, we did have to make some assumptions, so I want to just outline those here because there's, with the number of people involved in the boards and commissions program, there's just a lot of moving pieces. And so the first item to address as an assumption is that we use the best current and available information that we had about a week and a half ago after your discussion on August 5th when we prepared this analysis. Even since then, we've heard from at least 1 or 2 members who have resigned either because of this or just through their natural process. And so the numbers you see are kind of time-stamped based on that timing and information about a week and a half ago. We did also assume that anyone currently serving in a board and commission will reapply if they're able, and that's to effectively model the most impactful, the most impacts based on each option. And just to note that we did, of course, implement this reflects the previous direction of 3-year terms, except for Planning Commission, which would be 4-year terms as outlined in our charter, and the Youth Advisory Board, which would be exempt from both of these items. We also did not adjust any term lengths of the currently appointed members. As you're aware, there are some currently appointed members for terms that are different than 3 years. We have some that are appointed for 2-year terms, others that are appointed for 4-year terms. So we did not adjust any currently appointed members' terms, but did look and make those adjustments moving forward. So the analysis here is outlining, it's a table that shows each of the 3 options, the 3 rows with the 3 options, and then the number of impacted members per year for each of those options. This is a summary of what's in your packet. There's quite a lot more information in your packet that includes the number of people per board and commission per option, as well as which year those board members would be term limited. But for the sake of discussion, wanted to kind of just summarize that information here. So what you'll see in terms of option one, most of the impact is realized quickly, and it would be this year. So of those 8 members, we'd be looking at 2 members of the Human Rights Board, 3 members of the Library Board, 1 member of the Public Arts Subcommittee, and 2 members of the Senior Advisory Board. And then it tapers off as we move forward. The second option with that grace term does, because of the grace term, would push out the impacts. So we see similar impacts, but moving out a number of years, starting really in 2028. With this one, we also did look at any members who are currently serving in their second term and might reapply for their third, which would then term limit them, to kind of understand if there and model any potential kind of cliff effects by providing that grace term as well. And then for the third option, where we would just move forward, you'll see here we don't anticipate and don't assume any impacted members because effectively there's no change to what they're currently appointed for, and the term limits would just apply moving forward. So before I turn it over for council discussion and direction, do just want to summarize some next steps. So we have a number of items that we'll bring forward in an ordinance for you that were outlined in your memo and discussed in more detail at your last meeting. But that'll look like updated membership numbers for a number of our boards and commissions, removing alternates from boards that have them, but continuing to recognize alternates that are currently appointed. Of course, implementing 3-year terms if directed by council, except for Planning Commission and LEAB, and then implementing the 3-term limit, except for LEAB. So we do kick off our recruitment next week. So we'll take any finalized direction from tonight, update materials as needed, and then kick off that recruitment next week. And we have our open house on Thursday of next week. And then we'll return in November for council appointments following the recruitment process. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for discussion and direction and see if there's any direction on this item.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I think we can go ahead and start with questions first for staff, if council has any. Councilor Sampson.
So since this was done last week, do you know how many resignations there's been?
I'm not aware of any formal resignations. It's been more of people saying, in light of this conversation, if I'm already term limited, I might just bow out, but we haven't received any formal written resignations. So that's, yeah, it's kind of a flux period. So that's why I didn't want to reflect them in the numbers.
Okay. The next question I had is, when you say implement term limits moving forward, does that mean everybody would start at ground zero, so to speak? So even if you've been on a committee, board, or commission for 9, 12 years, you would still start at zero?
For that option 3, yes.
Okay. And then remind me, I believe we talked about this before in terms of, you mentioned the terms, those that are in 2-year terms and those that are in 4-year terms, you're assuming with this model they're not changing. How does that change though? Let's say how does that change for someone who's in a 2-year term, they've served 1 term, do they automatically, when they, if they decide to run again, they automatically go into a 3-year term then? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, this,
Okay.
we just didn't make any changes to anyone who's currently appointed, but even if we assumed that they would reapply, we made the change and kind of modeled out a 3-year term moving forward, if that
Okay.
answers your question.
Well, what I was trying to get at is I'm trying to figure out if, like when we do the approval in December or whatever, that do we change everybody who's been at a 2-year or 4-year term to say you're now at a 3-year term? Or
If
are
their
we
term
kind
is
of
up.
blending them through? Yeah.
If the
Okay.
term is up, and then we would, moving forward with the
Okay.
code change at that point, adjust as the terms end, kind of naturally.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Those were my questions.
Other questions from council? No? Okay. Well, then we can open it up to a discussion. Staff has presented 3 options in front of us, so just want to get everyone's input as to how we would like to move forward. Councilor Sampson?
I think option 2 makes the most sense for the Lafayette community because it seems like there's a need to sort of acclimate to this change. And both with, as we just talked about, with, kind of merging those in 2 years to 3-year terms, at naturally, those in 4-year terms when they go to their next term, doing that. But also having those who are looking at, okay, I really like being involved in the community, but I've already served so many years, maybe I need to move from this committee to another, or from this board to another board. And so giving them time to look at what's another board I might be interested in.
Thank you. Other counselors? Counselor Barnes?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say I do look at option 3 because this is a change in culture. I think it's a significant change in the culture of how we have people committed, and I think moving forward with option 3, with the new people coming in, would give an opportunity for that institutional knowledge to move forward, and those who have been on also to decide to step down from their board if they would like. So I'm okay with what the rest of the council, I think option 2 or 3 are probably the better of the options that we have.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Friedland?
I think I'm very similar. I really like that we're standardizing everything moving forward. I think that's helpful for people to understand. But also, disruption to the boards is something that I worry about slightly, right? And so I agree that I think option 3 for me is where I'm still at, which is basically where I was last time we had this conversation. But I could certainly be open to option 2 as well.
Awesome. Other counselors, or would you like me to weigh in? Mayor Pro Tem Wong.
I agree with Counselor Simpson. Sorry, it's been a long day. I apologize. I do agree that option 2 is probably the best option, and to allow some transition time, and so that is what I support.
Okay. Councilor Cayos?
I'm also in agreement with option 2. Option 3, I think, would undermine the entire reason we are considering this change. Having people serve an additional 9 years on top of what they have served, I think 2 is the best option of the 3.
Okay, well, we're not making this easy because I personally am in favor of option 3 because I see the concern, as we heard earlier tonight, with the institutional knowledge and that changing over, but I do understand how option 2 does address that to some extent. But I wouldn't want to see like folks resigning and then having us needing to fill those seats because of 1 or 2. But for me, 3 is we accomplished our goal of creating consistency, of creating this standard term limit for all of our boards, or a majority of our boards. And in addition to that, we are also at the same time allowing these boards to pass over that institutional knowledge while they're continuing to serve over the next few years and sort of prepare for that big change coming up where we'll see a lot of those members leave. But I am hearing from 3 counselors that they are strictly supportive of option 2, and from 2 members that they are open to option 2. So, and we do need a majority consensus here. So I would actually like to hear from Counselors Barnes or Friedland if you're okay with moving forward with 2 and going with the majority. That way we have a consensus. Or do you feel like option 3 is the strongest and you'd like to convince one of the others to move over to the other side? But want to just make sure we get a majority here.
I'm okay with going to 2.
Okay.
Likewise.
Okay.
I'm fine with option 2.
Okay, well, that makes it easy then. Any other comments or discussion about this? Do we feel good moving forward? Cool. Well, it looks like council's favor of option 2. What are next steps here?
We will go draft an ordinance and return with that for your consideration.
Great. Amazing. Thank you so much for all that work you all, staff has put in, and for reaching out to all the boards, and thank you to all the members of the boards for giving us your feedback.
Thank you.
And for their many years of service as well.
And for many years of service, yes. Okay, that wraps up presentations. What we have left tonight is regular business. This is item I. This is a public hearing. First reading of ordinance number 16, series 2025, amending chapter 26, development and zoning of the Code of Ordinances regarding height and other spatial requirements for emergency warning equipment. We have our planning and building director here to get us started.
Good evening, Mayor. Stephen Williams, city staff. As stated, we're considering an ordinance tonight concerning height and spatial requirements for emergency warning equipment. So for a public hearing, we're going to have an agenda that includes a staff presentation, opportunity for council questions before we have the public hearing, and opportunity for public comment, and then council discussion, and then a request for a motion. So I'll give you a little bit of background on why we're here and why we're requesting this. Boulder County received a grant to replace aging infrastructure. The 6 sirens and associated poles that are in Lafayette are over 40 years old. This grant occurred after the Marshall Fire, and now we have the equipment to actually follow through with the install. The technology will offer better message clarity, better sound propagation, reduce maintenance needs, and also offer more options for targeted messaging than the 40-year-old equipment currently allows. The code does not provide a clear path to this approval, and we don't have any documentation on how the existing poles were originally approved. Those poles are all on city property. They're all about 55 feet tall, and current zoning of those properties are less than the 55-foot height allowance. So we're asking for a code change. Not a review of the actual sirens that are being proposed, but it's just a review of the language that we're proposing to change so that we actually have a clear path towards allowing something. So the 4 components of that code modification are to define what emergency warning equipment are. We're going to exempt them from zoning, certain zoning requirements, and then also stipulate what they need for a building permit. So there'll still be structural analysis involved and a staff review. It just doesn't have to go through something more onerous, which would include a variance or something like that at this stage. It also limits the height, so it's not, even though we're taking away the height restriction, we're also putting in some language in order to clarify that it can't be overly tall. It needs to be commensurate to what the need is. And we're also doing some controls on location. And then finally, we've included some language to prohibit co-location, and this is specifically related to telecommunication equipment because the impacts of these poles grows commensurate or considerably if we have cell towers on them as well. So the definition we're putting forward is emergency and warning signs, audible warning devices, transmission equipment for public safety services, and associated towers and poles on which such equipment is mounted or attached. And then the exemption is from spatial requirements, including maximum heights. These towers and poles, as I mentioned, will need building permits, and the equipment must be structurally engineered and meet applicable building code requirements, which include wind load ratings and such. Then the height limits, we're just going to request that they be the minimum necessary to accomplish the intended function. So we get some level of analysis from every application that clarifies that it is not exceeding those. And so in this case, we have six poles throughout, or the application that's associated with this change. The 6 poles throughout the city generally cover the entire city's area. So, and this is just for actually getting noise out for people that are outside. So it's not going to be something that is so loud that you're necessarily intended to hear it if you're inside of a building. And then finally, that co-location prohibition is just to ensure that, one, the intent of this is limited to what the scope is, which is to provide for emergency notification, not to provide for telecommunication services. So with that, I'll leave it for council questions.
Great. This is a public hearing, so we will have the opportunity for public input, but first let's begin with any council questions regarding what's been presented so far. Questions? None? Okay. As I mentioned, this is a public hearing, so this is your opportunity to speak on this topic if you'd like. I've not seen any speaker forms in front of me so far, but are there any members of the public that wish to speak regarding this topic? Nope, not seeing any in person. I'm also not seeing any callers online. So with that, we will close the public input and move forward with the council discussion. And do you mind moving forward a slide as well? Okay. Are there any comments or discussion regarding this? Councilor Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. This actually came up in the last week's Senior Advisory Board meeting, simply because of the timing. And Chief Bradshaw came and did a great job with Delaney, might not be here. And the question, it was very good for the Senior Advisory Board to be aware of the fact that the poles are being replaced because they asked, why didn't we hear the siren? So this is great news for them to find out. And just clarify that there are steps moving forward, and even asked about people with special needs, like maybe hearing aids, to be able to hear those towers. So I think it's a great idea that the towers are coming back, and the sirens and the alerts are coming back. And I just wanted to mention that it was great timing. Thank you for Chief Bradshaw for coming in to help our advisory board know about that. And that reverse 911, from what we understand, is not a thing anymore. Just so people know, it's important to have this. And Everbridge is one of the options you can get on your phone to help you with alerts as well. So I think this is a good step moving forward, especially with potential hazards coming up. So I just appreciate the work. Thank you.
Sure. Planning Commission also considered this last week and are recommending, or recommended 6-0 that council approve it as well, just so. And Chief Bradshaw was at that meeting as well, so thank him for his attendance.
Okay, anything else? If not, we'll take a motion, please.
I move to approve on first reading ordinance number 16, series 2025, amending chapter 26, development and zoning of the Code of Ordinances regarding height and other spatial requirements for emergency warning equipment.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None opposed. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda under regular business is item J. This is first reading of ordinance number 15, series 2025, amending Article 2 of Chapter 115 of the Code of Ordinances regarding the model traffic code and the use of medians. We have our Public Works Director here to get us started.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. So tonight we have a staff presentation, opportunity for council questions, consideration of a first reading motion, and if this passes on first reading tonight, we'll be back next month with a second reading as is required for an ordinance. So just to kind of start off, the Model Traffic Code is a document that's drafted and periodically updated by the Colorado Department of Transportation, or CDOT. It gets adopted by the Colorado General Assembly and really serves a function to provide consistent traffic laws across the state so that they're similar regardless of what part of the state you're in. But in home rule communities, it's often adopted into municipal codes, and in many communities, what comes with that is consideration of local amendments. So there's, trying to have a code for the whole state, but there's some differences in urban and rural areas. There's some differences in how different communities consider multimodal transportation, and different communities have different focuses around safety. So for Lafayette, we've had a big focus on safety, particularly around pedestrians and bicycles. So as you know, in July, we adopted the city's Vision Zero Safety Action Plan. A big focus of that was looking at crashes where people are being seriously killed or seriously injured or killed. That established a high injury network, a high risk network, which are areas with the greatest risks. But it also had a big focus on vulnerable road users. Pedestrians and cyclists are significantly more likely to be killed or seriously injured in a crash. And just in terms of statistics we looked at with that, bikes and peds are only involved in about 2.6% of the crashes, but 16% of the crashes where someone is killed or seriously injured involve a pedestrian or a cyclist. So that's really makes it an important focus area for us as we try to move forward with the Vision Zero plan. So the city traffic engineer has the authority under the municipal code to designate transportation facilities for specific purposes. And so they designate things such as crosswalks and delineate areas that are designated for vehicular use. So medians and traffic islands are part of the roadway, and they're really there to channel vehicular traffic, except for in cases where they coincide with a designated pedestrian facility. So I wanted to just share a few examples to kind of give you a sense of what this ordinance impacts and how it works. So on the left is an example of a median that's really there to channelize vehicles and help avoid vehicle crashes. It's marginally wide enough that two trucks can pass each other without their mirrors hitting each other, but it's really not wide enough to safely accommodate a person. It uses that red stamped concrete that sort of looks like brick. That's used to delineate areas that aren't for people. You see it around town. It's not really a smooth surface. It's to distinguish that area from pedestrian areas, not to be a pedestrian area. You'll see in that picture there's no ramps to get on and off of that. There's no signs or pavement markings delineating that as an area to be on, and you can actually see in that photo the crosswalk is in front of it. So the people area is delineated by the crosswalk, and that is where people would go to cross the street. If you look at the example in the middle, that's a median that serves a function of separating lanes of traffic, but it also serves an aesthetic function. You can see it's got fairly steep slopes on the side. It's again using the red stamped concrete to delineate it as not being a pedestrian area. The surface on the top is a rock cobble that's not intended for people to be on. Many of those medians have exposed irrigation because, again, they're not intended to be walked on. There's no accessible ramps. There's no crosswalk leading to it. And in cases where staff do need to access that for maintenance, they are using traffic control and personal protective equipment so that they can safely access those areas. If you look at the example on the right, it has a little bit of everything. So you can see in the foreground is that red stamped concrete, which separates the pedestrian area from the roadway. On the back side of that, you can see a landscape area that is not intended for people. And then the area in between has those features that are specifically there to make that clearly a pedestrian area. So you can see it's got the standard concrete surface in the middle that's sufficient width for people to pass each other and wide enough to be accessible for a person using a wheelchair. It's got those red truncated domes, the little plastic domes at the edge, which serve to inform someone that they're about to step in the street, and those are directionalized so that people know which way to go at an intersection. There's the maneuvering area in the middle. So basically that's an example of one that is really intended to be for people. This is an example of a traffic island. These are sometimes referred to as pork chop islands or right turn bypass islands, but they're really to channelize traffic at intersections. They generally are to help that right turn move freely through a signalized intersection. Similar to the other drawing, the end of that island is the same red stamped concrete. It's got a delineator post on it. You can see from the photo that that curb has probably served to stop something from getting into the pedestrian area of that island. It is damaged, but the middle space of that has those same features you saw in the previous drawing. It's got the colored truncated domes that are directionalized to let people know how to get on and off the island and make that accessible. It's got the flat concrete maneuvering area in the middle. So again, this has all those features, but they're delineated into the separate spaces. So just to pull that all together, there are data indicating that pedestrians and bicycles have a higher risk of serious injury or death in a crash involving a vehicle. The city traffic engineer, under the code, designs, constructs, designates, operates, and maintains the areas of the roadway to improve the pedestrian safety. And this ordinance serves to clarify which areas are for people and which areas are for vehicles. So with that, I have motion language for your consideration. Happy to take any questions. And again, if council chooses to pass this on first reading, we will be back next month with a second reading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any questions from council? Councilor Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. No questions. I'd just like to thank you for explaining exactly the design. As someone who spends a lot of time with trying to navigate medians, and now I have a better understanding of why some of them are so small and what function they serve. And I do appreciate the fact that they are so intentionally designed, because they are something I think that protects a lot of pedestrians and cyclists from it's a pretty dangerous situation. So I appreciate all the effort to ensure that we do have safe ways of moving through the city.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? No? If not, we'll take a motion, please.
I move to approve on first reading ordinance number 15, Series 2025, amending Article 2 of Chapter 115 of the Code of Ordinances regarding the model traffic code and the use of medians.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? None opposed. That passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Okay, next up on regular business is item K. This is resolution number 2025-49, approving with conditions an application for site plan and architectural review for Lot 12, amended final plat Lafayette Tech Center, filing 3, replat E for 400 Old Laramie Trail for KinderCare. And we have the planning director back with us today.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, this is a site plan architectural review request for KinderCare at 400 Old Laramie Trail. This is a public meeting, so it is going to have the following agenda. I'll provide a short introduction, and then we'll turn it over to the applicant for their presentation. Staff will come back and provide you with a general overview of our analysis, and then there'll be time for council questions and discussions before a motion. So the applicant is Cadence Capital Investments on behalf of KinderCare. The request is for a 1,000 square foot daycare facility. It's located on a 1.2 acre lot. It is within the Lafayette Tech Center. It's on lot 12 of filing 3. And then the zoning for this property is complicated. It's a C1M1 with a PUD overlay, but the comp plan use designation is a Collectiflex. So you can see it here on the map. It is located between Highway 287 and South Public Road on the south side of Old Laramie Trail. It's immediately west of Thorn Nature Center. So the proposal is for that building to be centrally located on the site with parking between Old Laramie Trail and the building. And then south of the building, there is a playground area as well as private detention facilities before you get to the regional trail system to the south. The proposal is compliant with all of our SPAR requirements. It's a single-story building. It's 22 feet tall and includes four-sided architecture. Some of the other kind of unique things about this site is the coordinated access. So there is just a corner of this access that is shared with the property owner to the east that had to be coordinated through an easement. And then we have a social trail that has always been planned but will be formalized through this development that's shared between this property and the property to the immediate west. But that will be constructed and connect Old Laramie to the Coal Creek Regional Trail to the south. So again, The PUD in particular of the Lafayette Tech Center designates this as C1N1 zoning, and that PUD had a specific list of uses that were allowed. Daycare is one of them. And then, as I stated, staff has reviewed this for compliance with the site plan and architectural review criteria and found it to be compliant. But because this is also in C1 zoning, it is also required to meet commercial design criteria. And so the one exception that this application is seeking is to not meet the 50% glazing requirements on the front facade. That elevation is about 30% of windows. So I'll turn it over to the applicant now.
You're going to have to walk me through the...
Yeah, you can do whatever, but just kind of...
Oh, good. Thank you. Sure. My name is Lucy Deneen, and I'm with Cadence Capital Development. We are the developer and applicant for this site plan and elevation approval. Steve did a good job of giving you most of the detail, but just to have you be familiar with who we are, we are based in Denver. We've been around since 2001. We specialize as a developer working with clients, and we will work for them in the sense of helping them develop their real estate needs. And so KinderCare, we're a preferred developer for KinderCare, but we will be the developer owner, and then they commit to a long-term lease to this community. And so they found this community. We were in the car with them. They look at communities and their needs for daycare, and then they pick a site that fits that model. And that's how this site was found. We drove around, we looked around, and they found this site, which we then proceeded to try to work through with the planning staff. KinderCare is a national provider of daycare. It's 0 to 5. They don't do, they're not past that. They really are a child care facility, but it's 0 to 5. This is 10,000 square feet. Their other prototype is 12,000, so this is a smaller one. But they are also a little bit different than a lot of the daycares you see. Not all of them, but they're very few. I think it's one of maybe 2 national providers who are not franchised. They have a corporate staff and a corporate model. So if there's questions about KinderCare, we can answer them. They have 35, maybe by now 37 units within the Colorado Front Range market. So they're committed to this market, and they've been around a long time. So let's see if I figure this out. Nope. Okay, so I just basically said that. So the site we found, and what they liked about this site is obviously that the access points for commuting, they like to be near residences, but they also want it to be very easy for people to get in and out of, because they're dropping off children in the morning and they're picking them up in the afternoon. So this site has really good circulation to the different roads in the different directions. So that's what they saw. They are a destination, so they don't absolutely have to have visibility to a main road, but they do need accessibility. This is close to Medtronics, but it's close to a lot of commuting paths for people who work. We are next to the Thorne School, which you guys probably know really well, and I met with them, and that's an extraordinary facility. Its mission is different, and I think they're complementary. Where the Thorne community is going to do outdoor things and access the open space, but they're a little bit mixed in terms of, do they provide full day daycare for working parents? KinderCare will be, they didn't pick the site because of access to the open space. So that's not part of their expectation, but they might synergize a little bit with Thorne. So we had a good relationship with Thorne. Thorne actually was willing to work on it with us to get an easement to create the cross curb cut need that Steve mentioned briefly. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is a site plan, and this is a pretty small site. So we, with everybody's help, we sort of worked this and that and the other thing. But basically, this envisions the playground to the south or the west side, and facing south away from the street, so it's protected. It's next to a detention pond, but it will be fenced for safety and again, away from the street. But, it's pretty straightforward. A 10,000-foot building. It has a lot of moving, a lot of activity to the elevation when you see it, because there's lots of windows, there's bump outs, there's variety in its materials and things like that. Sidewalks throughout the whole building, around the whole building. They have a very strict safety and, fire safety protocol. These kids they are not dropped off and said, go inside. They are brought inside. They are all infants or toddlers. So they're brought in and picked up. We worked on an emergency access easement for fire, which really is going to be on this west side where we use the trail area and then there's a barricade which opens for the fire. And if anybody has any civil comments, Jerry Davidson, our civil engineer, is here. He will be much more engineer speak than I am, but essentially that would be the drive aisle, and that access point would create emergency vehicle access. There's a lot of pedestrian connectivity and sense of that. That's kind of and again, 28 parks for this 10,000-foot building. A lot of landscaping. I think that the required amount was 7,600 square feet, but we have 17,500 of landscaped area. This envisions us, working with the trail and making sure that is part of, that people will have public access through the trail and not be part of our site, but we created a landscaping plan that respects it. Other than that, we meet code. And I think the playground right now in this presentation is AstroTurf, because that's their spec. It's an AstroTurf which we worked with the city to confirm met plastics code. If that is something different, we will figure that out in the CD review. But really, that right now is what you're showing. The elevations, and I did bring material board if you really want to see it, but essentially the materials are pretty neutral, grays and variety in terms of type of material, et cetera. And again, Planning Commission voted for approval, I think unanimously. But what we did do is we have a bump out for the south facing because it will be seen from the open space. And you can see by the east and west elevations a little bit of a sense of dimension and movement. It breaks up the massing. So it's a simple building, but it's a very interesting building, and it's really respectful. I also think it's really important. When we chose this direction to go, they commit to a long term, and they really expect to be a daycare probably for as long as I'm around anyway. But I think that this building lends itself for, if it ever were to be adapted to something different, it lends itself to either medical or even retail, although this is not really a retail site. But I do think it's not, it's consistent with and harmonious with the other office buildings around there. So I think that was important for us as an owner to understand that the building itself could be adapted. And here's a digital material board to give you a sense if you want to see it. I have a physical, non-digital, but stone and again, multiple materials, neutral colors, brown, grays, and fairly consistent with what's out there. This is a lighting plan. We do photometrics so that it meets code. It doesn't go off the site. It's down facing lighting. I sort of touched on this. There are 38 learning centers in Colorado. There might be more by now because we have been adding them as we go along. They have an early foundations philosophy, which is, a lot of these places kind of have a feeling of a little bit of a Montessori aspect, but they are very kid-focused, obviously. There are long waiting lists for childcare in Metro Denver. I mean, I don't know if you guys, I'm on the grandchild path at the moment, but I know that from my nieces and nephews, there are 2-year waiting lists in many places. And again, infants through pre-K is this focus. KinderCare does a lot of national investment in staff training and retention. And again, because it's not a franchise franchise organization, you get the full, it's a public company, KinderCare is. So you get a very real investment into its operations. So, just briefly, again, we're compatible with the area. We meet or exceed code with the exception of the front that had to be that way to meet their the childcare classrooms, not to have 50% transparency, but to have a slightly lower transparency on that side. 360-degree architecture, and a strong corporate tenant. So if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I think we'll get to that in a
Okay.
moment, but
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank
you. So Lucy touched on most of the criteria, so I'll be kind of as brief as I can here. But like I mentioned already, use is allowed through the Lafayette Tech Center PUD. We've reviewed this and given you guys thorough analysis through your packet tonight on the SPAR criteria, but I'll summarize that as well. The development code includes a number of things, including spatial requirements, architecture, landscaping, and parking. And then we've touched on the commercial design guideline exception already. But staff generally lumps those 20 SPAR criteria into the 6 categories shown here. We're looking for compatibility and scale, compatibility and quality and architecture, quality and function of the landscape design, orderly circulation and parking, and then meeting of the screening requirements, as well as compliant building and site lighting. So this is maybe a little bit better or bigger illustration of that front facade on the bottom. And then the landscaping, the only thing I would clarify is that there are easements that are kind of prohibiting denser landscaping on the south side of that. But the lighting is also kind of critical to this review because there's a wildlife corridor associated with Coal Creek as well, and that all stops 60 feet north of the south property line. So we looked at that carefully as well. And then we looked at this is just some other businesses and development out in that area in order to confirm that this design is compatible with this. And as Lucy mentioned, one of the encouraging things and actually unique things, I think this is the first applicant that has come through and told us that the building is usable for something besides the specific use that's being proposed tonight. So that's actually encouraging from a sustainability standpoint as well. But this is getting into that four-sided architecture, which Lucy also covered, but it is on all 4 sides. We got windows and we got building articulation as well as articulation and roof lines, but even more emphasis on that south side because it actually does face and it will be visible from the Coal Creek corridor as well. She's covered all of the materials. And then lastly, the landscaping, screening, and lighting has also been touched on. So the 5 conditions associated with this recommendation are really associated with like coordination of a development agreement, which are required whenever we have public access easements and or public improvements, I should say. And then we also have public access easements and private access easements to coordinate. So you'll see the public access easements come back to you on a consent agenda once those are finalized, and they are limited to the emergency access that Lucy mentioned, and then there's access to the detention facility in case the city actually needs to maintain it. But that's the end of my presentation, so here for questions if you have any.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, well, I guess we'll start with questions then, either for the applicant or for staff. Councilor Sampson.
Was the ability, and I'm looking at attachment C, was there an ability to have 2 entrances, exits to the parking lot?
So that's, our code requires, or our goal right now for safety is for 1 access. And this subdivision was already created to have coordinated access. And so it's not our first choice. And so the EVA was kind of the substitute fix so that you don't have a bunch of, circulation so that the fire truck has to be able to turn around on site. It was a fairly easy coordination because there's already a trail planned here. But this construction, and this is kind of what Lucy was alluding to if you need the engineer to comment on, but this is actually like that portion of the trail will be designed to be, accommodate a fire truck. And then there's three breakaway bollards here, so that the fire truck, like, if it does need to come and serve the site, will pull out in a forward manner there. But to your point, and I assume it's related to the amount of drop-off and all of that.
Yep.
Our concern and our balance is to try to get minimal pedestrian and vehicular conflict, and that's why our goal is one access point, and this subdivision was also kind of prescribed for that, with a joint coordinated access on property lines as well, so.
Well, I'm going to speak as a parent who has dropped her kid off at
Yeah.
Thorn, and who goes to the dental place that's right next to it as well. I understand why you can't really have that many access points at the dental, but it is confusing as you get in there and you park and you pull back and you've got
Yeah.
kids in there. Thorn, I will say, safety-wise, it would be worse without the second access, because people pull in, just like this is showing, almost through from the western side and then exit out the other and then keep moving. And otherwise, because as you pull into these parking spots, we're all dropping our kids off at the same time, and then parents are getting out of the car, walking their kids in, and you don't see those little people unless you have a backup camera. And so there is a lot of, there can be a lot of
Trade-offs,
close
yeah,
misses
yeah.
of cars backing out at the same time on both sides, and, stopping and starting because there are kids and parents walking hand in hand. And that's why, the first thought was, yes, I know that you have to have 2 access points for fire to get in that big old truck, but also the thought of trying to make it safer for parents and kids as you're using this facility.
Yeah, point taken. I guess the only thing I'd say is that our code doesn't necessarily, it's not as nuanced as, like, this is a daycare, and maybe 2 access points make sense in a place
Because of
that,
this.
like this, so.
Yeah, because of the
But that
use.
is the ultimate objective, and it's kind of wholesale for all uses, so.
So I'm going to ask this and of our attorney, if we at council wanted to discuss that as being something, that the bollards aren't there, that becomes an actual access point that can be used on a regular basis, is that something that can be done within this discussion?
So you'd be asking the applicant and staff to revisit the design that they've come up with so far. I would recommend that be, if you'd like staff to explore that with the applicant, that really be something that is reviewed by our Public Works Department and our traffic engineer. I know that this design has been reviewed and approved by our traffic engineer and our Public Works Department, so I'm just concerned about council making a different design recommendation without the benefit of the experts on our staff weighing in.
Sure, sure. So in other words, what you're saying is what council would have the ability to do would be able to say, we would like staff to work with the applicant to see if we can make that a permanent entrance, exit, whatever that would be, an entrance.
Yes, but I would also recommend that council defer to staff and traffic engineering analysis on that. And I don't think we have a traffic engineer tonight to weigh in on whether that's a.
I was just going to add to it. I don't know that it helps or not, but I do think obviously when we first submitted, we liked 2 access points.
Yep.
And we were turned down. And that, by the way, that's maybe 2 years ago. So I do feel for that. It's not the applicant's requirement. Now, the other side of it, though, is that KinderCare has many facilities with this basic layout. One, if you want to go see it, was just opened on Highway 7 in Broomfield with exactly 1 access point, dead-ended, turned around. Thorn comes and goes. It's not to say Thorn, but Thorn has a little bit of a different all-day long kind of probably requirement, and different age kids. these are all toddlers, and again, I hear you.
That's why I
but-
made that comment. Because they
But I do
fall
think-
under, it's difficult to see them.
So I'm just saying, we have met
Yeah.
code. In fact, we're directed not to do that by the City of Lafayette Public Works. And I'm just saying, there's another example a few miles away from here if you want to go see what is open and operating and approved. If that's helpful.
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
And Councilor Sampson, I would also add that there may be dimensional limitations because of the size and width of this site, which is different than what is next door at Thorn, where they do have the 2 access points. It's a much longer lot. So I don't have the ability to weigh in, and I don't know if planning staff here tonight has the ability to weigh in on why this choice was made. But if council would like staff to explore it, you can certainly recommend that tonight. I just, again, would want you to do that with deference to our staff's analysis, if that's acceptable to council.
I would clarify, I guess, 2 things. Thorn has multiple lots, so that's why they have multiple access points. And it wasn't an exception that I understand was granted to Thorn. The spacing here should work because it's going to accommodate a fire truck, but it is more complicated because this is the property line. So the improvements here, I think the adjacent property owners always anticipated a public access easement for the trail. And we've done a lot to try to make sure that that is more natural. So it's like a crusher fine finish that transitions to something more narrow as you move south. So what would happen if this ended up being a full movement access? It'd be a driveway. The concrete would extend out, and there would be likely more public improvements required and slightly more cost in order to accommodate it as a concrete finish versus the crusher fine finish that's designed right now. So,
thank you.
Okay, let's hear from other councilors if they have any questions or comments for the applicant or for staff. Councilor Gallegos.
So I just had a question regarding the utilization of school buses. I have concerns about a school being located next to a school, and in a daycare setting, you may have a child enrolled in preschool who is being bused in the middle of the day. Are there buses that are eventually going to be in the way of other buses? And I know sometimes larger BVSD buses are utilized by Thorn for trips and other excursions. So has that been looked at or considered?
we did send this referral out to BVSD, and they don't serve this use. So there's no bus use for associated with kinder care. But it was a conversation that got brought up at Planning Commission as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. Other questions, Councilor Barnes?
Thank you, Mayor. Is this the first kinder care in Lafayette?
And I'm aware of it.
Maybe I'm probably getting confused. There was one Caria and South Boulder, where there was a facility there. I thought it was kinder care, but it probably wasn't that. You would know where they are,
I
right?
might not know. I mean, if it were, the kindergarten's been in business for decades, right? So there is possibilities, like when you drive by an old 7-Eleven, there might have been an old 7-Eleven. I can find out though, but I don't know.
Okay, there used to be.
There used to be, it closed.
Okay. My son went there, that's why I was like, I think it was there, but I was sleep deprived, so I'm not sure. This looks, I really like this design compared to the one that I do remember before, so it's just nice to see. Not to throw shade, but yeah, this looks great. I really love it. That was just a comment, but I did have a question. Believe it or not, I've actually ridden that. Won't be a surprise. I've ridden that trail. It's already there.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why where it intersects the sidewalk was so heinous. So now I understand it wasn't finished. I appreciate it being finished. And I don't know if there's any accommodation for people who will be bringing their children by bicycle and trailer and e-bike on the trail. I would assume that all the children will be received on the north side of the building and not the south side because the playground's there. But was that ever considered? I think this might be a question for the, yeah,
There are,
maybe.
I think there's bike racks just on the north side of the building here, so the access, if you're talking about from Coal Creek, would come up through that trail that's gonna get formalized, and then it would just use the EVA access to come through, so those bollards should be spaced wide enough
Right.
apart to allow for that bike access there, so.
Was that part of the discussion? Did we talk about that?
Generally, I mean, but not, there's no specific criteria for that access or whatever, it was just, it's a commercial use, it requires the bike parking through the commercial design standards. C1 zoning is the one area that does require bicycle parking, so it is there. And I don't know if there's anything more that you want to add on that.
I love this community because clearly biking and I have a niece who lives in Amsterdam and everything's bike. So I hear that. We do have the pedestrian connectivity you can kind of see and the bike access, but there wasn't a specific thing for a, beyond the code. And we do have quite a few EV ready, car requirements, but I do think a bike, if somebody's dropping off at a bike, if you look at the entrance, it's a fairly large plaza. So I imagine that will adjust. And then, if KinderCare finds that there's demand that way, they would probably accommodate it and come back and look at it. But that is not anything different than the code. That hasn't been specifically addressed.
I was just curious, and I would say there's probably going to be some questions. I know a lot of parents who really prefer to
drop
bring
off
their
by bike.
children via bike.
Does the Primrose, there's a Primrose, right? Do they have something special?
No, I haven't gotten there yet.
But I love the idea. I mean,
Yes.
that I'll share that with them for their broad future, because I think it's the future. So I'll share that.
Yes, and by the way, I ask this of every
No, that's good.
group that comes up. I want to know what we're thinking when we bring bikes in there, so I think that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions from council? Okay. Okay, all right. Can we move forward, please, in the presentation? Okay. If there aren't any more questions, we'll take a motion, please.
I thought we have discussion.
Oh, I apologize.
We only had questions.
Sorry, I was thinking, I put them together. I do apologize. Let's move forward with a council discussion on thoughts on this proposal here. Councilor Sampson.
First of all, I like the question about buses because I know that even though I have seen a KinderCare bus before, and I've seen buses at daycares. So even though there may not be a plan as to today, there could be a plan later. I do like the second access point without bollards. Beyond what I stated before, if I had a child there and I think fire tries to get to places within 5 minutes, and I don't want anything to be standing in the way of first responders and a kid. And so to me, having these bollards in the way makes me nervous. So I don't know if there's, personally, I would like to see that in here.
Okay, so removal of those access.
Not just removal of those, right? A whole second access, or?
I would love that, but I keep hearing that, my desire for safety is getting in the way of people building. So, it's gonna cost more, and that's just not the way we do it. But this is a use specific to children and young children, 0 to 5. And my personal experience, not only here, but at other childcare facilities, I look for second access as a parent to how fast, because I know that we need a second access for fire. And I know, that when I pull out. So ideally, I would love that, but if I couldn't, then my next thought would be to say, get stuff out of the way so we could get a fire truck in there and out of there fast.
Okay. So a question for the city attorney. Oh, actually, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna reassure council that the design of the bollards and the blockade system that's there has to be approved by our fire department and has to be immediately accessible to a fire apparatus that comes on the site. We've covered that both in the site plan and architectural review plans itself, as well as in the development agreement. I've actually drafted fairly robust provisions in the development agreement that talks about our rights to fire and emergency vehicle access there, as well as the maintenance of the access improvements, the trail improvements that are also going to double as fire and emergency access. We're making sure that those improvements will be able to support our fire apparatus that would enter the site, as well as an ambulance or even a utility vehicle. And that that the barrier or the bollards that are there meet our standards and specifications of our fire department. So we've done everything we can to ensure that we have full access there, because we have the same concerns. Staff has the same concerns. Legally, I have the same concerns as the city attorney, and I'm happy to share those provisions with council too, if that would help.
Yeah, and if I may, I would imagine too that anyone developing or anyone operating has exactly the same concerns and really has put a lot of thought and time into the design to address those concerns. And I think it's about balancing, if I'm understanding correctly, that the PUD and the zone, all of the planning up until now has set them up for success, hopefully here, based on what they were told, right? And so I hear you, and but I just think they clearly have put a lot of time into this design, and it would be, I think, a challenge for us to kind of push them back there. And it sounds like those bollards meet the need of fire. So I hear your concerns and I'm with you, but I think this does meet that from what I can tell.
Okay. Well, I first want to see if any member of council wants to add on to this discussion regarding the placement of the bollards or the access to the building. Okay. And so, Councilor Sampson, I don't know if you want to add on to the response from the city attorney, Councilor Friedland, or if this is still something you still have concerns over and how you'd like to move forward. Like, if you have a proposal.
No, it feels like if there's nobody else on council that supports it, then my option is to vote no against this.
Okay.
In the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for bringing that concern up. Are there any other points of discussion that any member of council would like to bring up? No?
This does feel like a place that we could, in our updated land use code, address, right? And so, I think that's the option that we have moving forward, so.
Yeah, I think the vagueness makes it difficult, right? The specific use of the building, right? That's the difficult part, is like, this is a kindergarten facility, but it's being treated the same as, a different commercial.
Right, and that's where I think the exemption was warranted.
Right.
If this was a business that wasn't catering specifically to 0 to 5, I wouldn't feel this way at all.
Yeah,
right?
I understand.
Yeah, so I think it's just part of this larger discussions as we continue to refine our code. Okay, there aren't any other points of discussion. I think we can move forward, please. There is motion language, if someone feels prepared to make that motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-49, approving with conditions an application for site plan and architectural review for Lot 12, amended final plat, Lafayette Tech Center, filing 3, replat E, 400 Old Laramie Trail, KinderCare.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, that motion passes 5-1. Thank you. Okay, that wraps up item L. Thank you, staff. And for the folks joining us on that topic. We can move forward now to that was item K. That brings us to item L, which is resolution number 2025-47, conditionally approving a parking modification for lots 1 through 3, Block 3, Lafayette Town Site, 129 North Harrison Avenue. Long night for you, but thank you so much to our director here for getting all these presentations ready for us.
Thank you, Mayor. So this last resolution, 2547, is associated with Red Queen. It's a parking modification. So it is a public meeting again, so staff will have an introduction, and then I'll turn it over to the applicant. And they'll kind of give the background of why they're making the request, and then staff will get into our analysis for what we need to find in order to support a parking modification. And then council has the opportunity for questions and discussion before a request for a motion. So the Red Queen parking modification has been brought forward by the applicant is the business owner, DBS Starlight LLC. The property owner of the lumber yards is also involved in this application. The property itself is located at the southwest corner of East Geneseo and North Harrison Street. The zoning is B1. It's within the Lura overlay, and it is Old Town mixed use through the comp plan designation. So the mix of uses out on the site includes commercial, retail, office, and service. Those 3 lots that the mayor mentioned constitute just half an acre, and the existing development is just under 6,200 square feet. So although it's not part of the proposal tonight, the applicants are requesting confirmation that they get a parking modification because their proposed SPAR or their associated SPAR and PUD, which constitutes a 1,600 square foot addition, is not possible without the parking modification. So this is an interesting historic property. It doesn't have any prior contemporary development approvals. Everything out here is historic. The Red Queen is shown on the bottom right, and then the rest of the lumberyard development is kind of reflected in the image on the top image. The site consists of 3 commercial buildings and 1 storage building. Red Queen currently occupies the entirety of 2 of these buildings. That other L-shaped building has 5 individual units within it. And then, like I mentioned, a SPAR and PUD would be required for the associated building addition that is proposed on the north side of Red Queen. So that's where that addition would occur. And as you can kind of see through to where that car is, it impacts 3 of the existing parking spaces, which is maybe more easily reflected on the site plan. So there's an existing site plan here on the left, and then the proposed addition is reflected in red on the right. As I mentioned, 1,600 square foot addition is associated with the future development, and it would bring the proposed building area to just over 7,800 square feet. So in addition to losing the 3 parking spaces, they would also are asking for essentially a waiver for additional parking for that 1,600 square foot addition. So in total, it's a reduction of 11 parking stalls, and at the end of the day, they'd have 25 parking spaces remaining. Turn it over to the applicant.
If the applicant is here, thank you.
Mayor and council, thank you. I'm Kurt Munding, and this is my wife.
Mary Pat Mundy.
We bought the lumber yards back in 2018, and we moved to Lafayette in 1998 and have lived in Old Town ever since. And we have worked diligently over the last number of years, active, and we bought this particularly so Mary Pat could have an office there, but more importantly, to try to preserve the unique character of Old Town. We feel like we've done that here with the lumber yards, if anybody's been down there over the past 8 years. But we fully support the Red Queen's addition and would just ask that you support the parking modification. I mean, in reality, we're probably parked heavier than any business in Old Town, and it's rarely full. So Barb and Deirdre, the owners of the Red Queen, have just done an amazing job to put Harrison
Hi,
on the map.
thank you.
And so if we can't build an addition for them, they will probably look elsewhere, and we don't want to lose them as a business in Old Town or in Lafayette at all, because they're amazing. And they've done such a great job, and everyone knows it and loves it, and so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary Pat. Hi, I'm Deirdre Appelhans. I'm one of the co-owners of the Red Queen. And the reason that we're hoping to have approval to modify the parking requirement so that we can expand the building and expand our services in Lafayette. We're struggling with the size that we're currently in because we have demand for more seating, more books, more gifts, and also for, you know, having authors coming to read and having space for that. In the current building that we're in, there isn't space for that. So we came up with a plan with the landlords and property owners, Mary Pat and Kurt, to expand the building. And we're really wanting to stay in Lafayette. We both live in Lafayette. Our whole lives are in Lafayette, and it's our favorite town. So, but we're not able to have a sustainable, strong business if we can't expand somewhat, not endlessly, not multi-story expansion, not the tattered cover, but a little more space for us to keep our business healthy and be able to continue for many years in Lafayette.
Great. Yeah, and Linda Lodwig is the architect. We've worked with Linda for 20 years. She's been in Old Town for longer than we have.
Yeah.
But she's done a great job just bringing, it's just a small addition, but it just brings the building out to Geneseo, and it gives it a little visibility on public roads, so I think it'll help draw people in.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I think we'll have some more discussion and then call you up if we have more questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so section 26, 2010 addresses the modification requirements. There's 4 of them, and the 2 that are applicable tonight and the 2 that the applicant is leaning on are 2 and 3, so parking needs for non-dwelling uses. This is all commercial, so it's not residential. And then there's varying times for those uses that exist on the site. So staff agrees with the applicant's arguments that these 2 criteria are applicable in this circumstance. But we also, in reviewing these modifications, take into other considerations, including the remaining parking on the site. So if you do the math out here, the uses either require 1 space for 200 square feet or 1 space for 300 square feet. And overall, as a whole, they'll be, you know, just under or just over the higher threshold there. It'll be 1 space for every 312 square feet of development. And then other parking options exist. So immediately to the west along North Public, there is a public parking facility. So they have that as close to them or as proximate to them as anybody in Old Town. There's also proximity to public transit. And then their SPAR application includes the addition of bike racks to take advantage of our Old Town's, you know, just unique fabric that already encourage walkability and bike transit. So, and then lastly, the comp plan and then other LURA documents. And I know LURA is transitioning to the DDA, but those overlining documents and objectives still will support prioritizing the public realm and de-emphasizing parking. So that new addition will actually, you know, in planning terms, help activate Geneseo and bring the commercial, you know, activity along North Public down that street, and then also screen the parking from the north. So, and then again, the last thing is obviously it's a great business that we have, and business retention is an important aspect as well. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll start with questions for either staff or the applicant. Councilor Sampson?
How many bikes will those bike racks hold?
I don't know offhand. Is it like 6? 4? 4. So 2 bike racks, 4 bikes.
2, okay, so total of 8 bikes.
No, 4 bikes.
Well, you can put a bike in.
Yeah, 4 racks. So
So-
if you put them on either side, maybe 8. But,
Standard for 4 loops.
4 loops.
Okay, how,
What's on public road?
on public, I'm talking about the ones that are.
No, on public road right now, you have 4 loop parking places in front of Ghost Pizza.
Come on.
Can you?
It'll be similar to that, is what she's
Similar,
saying.
I'm sorry,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, I'm looking at the concept plan and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Okay, and then my other question is about, what are the other businesses, what have they had to say in this area?
The other businesses within the lumber yards?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Kurt, talk to the-
They, everybody loves Barb and Deirdre, they want them to stay. And they don't have a problem with,
Can you come up here and talk
oh,
so
sorry.
that we get you on record answering the question? Thank you.
Yeah, we haven't heard from any tenants that there's a concern.
Okay, so.
We have Cherry's Cheesecakes in there and Crosscut Salon. We just have 2 new tenants that moved in. Fiercely Vocal just opened, and there's actually a new place opening up, and they're all super supportive of what Barb and Deirdre are trying to do here.
Okay, so they've seen the concept plan? And
I don't know if we've showed it to them, but we've talked to them about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it?
All right, other questions? Councilor Barnes?
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering, because I'm on the Downtown Development Authority, and I think there's a person named Ian that you might be familiar with. I was just wondering.
That's their
Yes.
son.
That was a joke.
Oh.
It wasn't funny, so skip that. I was just wondering if does he have any comment about this addition?
Thank you.
No, so Ian, yeah, he's our son.
I know, I was just wondering, 'cause I expected to see him
He
here
didn't-
tonight. I was wondering.
He,
if,
I mean, he loves the Red Queen and would love to see him stay. He doesn't have any comments on this. I suppose if something came to DDA, he'd probably recuse himself from any type of decision that was gonna be made, just for potential conflict of interest, just because, he's helping us with some of the management of this now.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, and this is part of what we're trying to do, is activate the downtown area, and this is right in alignment with what we're thinking, so I appreciate the fact that, the Red Queen is one of the anchors that we're trying to ensure is still in the area, and yes, it's definitely bikeable. I think having this will continue to make that an area that is accessed by alternative means of transportation, especially since that'll provide, if there's authors coming in and more people gathering down in that space. I really appreciate that, because all the parking there, just like it never really, I wondered if it was ever all used, and it sounds like it's
It's
not.
very rarely all filled, unless the WOW Museum's having a special event, which happens quite often, and they park in our lot.
Yeah. No, I think this is a great way to use it, so thank you. Just
Thank
wondering for any more.
Yeah. Okay, final questions for the applicant or for staff? Okay. Any comments for discussion or points to bring up regarding this proposal? Anything from Councilor Gallegos?
So for me, it's a no-brainer, retention of business, of a well-loved business that we want to keep here.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Friedman.
Likewise, I'm very supportive of this. I do want to make sure that as we, we've seen a few parking reduction requests. And I think we just need to make sure that over time we're understanding of what we allow for one versus another and how that's consistent or not consistent. And that being, something that is philosophical that we can continue to look back on. And whether that's in the land use code update, I'm sure that will be addressed there, but also as we're getting there, just making sure that we're being fair. But otherwise, I think it's a good addition. I'm excited to see a good local business continue to grow, and yeah, supportive of this.
Councilor Sampson.
I'd like to add on to that if businesses are reducing their parking, I'd like them increasing their bike rack capacity. I mean, I absolutely agree this business needs more space. Where that proposed addition is where my family parks their bikes. So that's why I was asking, well, where are we gonna park our bikes, or are we just not? And that's part of the idea of a business too. If people who come down using a certain mode of transportation can't, use that mode to get there, they'll just say, I'll go somewhere else. And I don't want to do that because it's a great business.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the folks in the room hear your feedback, and so we'll see if they, what they do with that. But, okay, any other comments or questions? All right, thank you. So there is a motion if someone feels ready.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-47, conditionally approving a parking modification for lots 1 through 3, Block 3, Lafayette Town Site, 129 North Harrison Drive, Red Queen.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None opposed, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now transition to item M. This is resolution number 2025-48, appointing Heather Balzer as the city treasurer. And we may give folks a second to transition out of here.
I told Heather it's nothing against her.
Okay, we have our city manager here for this introduction.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, council. I am so pleased to be up here tonight. Just as a reminder, there are a few positions in your charter that require, even though they serve at the pleasure of the city manager, a required authorization to serve an indefinite time. The city treasurer, aka finance director, aka chief financial officer, is one of those positions. So that is why you're here tonight, to do something a little bit beyond what our typical introductions are for key staff members. So as a reminder, we opened the recruitment process in early June. We had it open for just under 3 weeks and had almost 70 applicants apply from all across the country, and very impressive applications as well. It was very hard to narrow down, and ended up interviewing 5 candidates, all local with local government experience at the end of that time, and had a cross-departmental, so including both colleagues that the CFO would be working with at the department head level, as well as representatives from different departments, including the finance team. So really wanted it to be a collaborative process. And at the end of the day, we were very pleased and super excited to have Heather Balzer accept our job offer. She has over 30 years of local government experience. If the name and face is familiar, it's because of her time with the city of Louisville, where she was there for 25 years, working her way up all the way to the city manager. And so just brings a wealth of experience, kind of on the broad sense, but also has been involved in a lot of different financing things through her different municipal experiences. So she has a bachelor in economics, which is very helpful in this role to see that big picture, and a master's in public administration, and also received her certification from the Senior Executive Institute. So we are happy to answer any questions, welcome her, but we also do have motion language at the end of that.
Great. Okay, well, welcome. we'll start with if there are any questions or comments from City Council. Councilor Friedman.
First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Of all the L towns in Boulder County, just kidding. No, I don't really have questions, but just welcome and amazing to have you. And really, I'm really impressed by the team that you've been building, City Manager, and we're really excited to have you. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to work with the team. And Morgan from Finance and Sarah from HR have done a great job in the interim, and I'm looking forward to taking over and working with all the staff. It's very exciting.
I'd be remiss to thank interim CFO Morgan Walton, who has now done this twice. So really, she is maybe more eager than I am for this resolution to pass, but she has done a wonderful job.
She going on vacation now?
Nice. Councilor Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. It's really nice to have you on board, and our bench is deep, and I love this. And I have mentioned this before, and if council members will bear with me for just a second. There's something called climate change. Really worried about this, and I'm trying to figure out all the different ways we can address it. And there is a document that I'd love to share with you if you have any way to walk around this. It's related to managing climate risks in the U.S. financial system, and it's a report of the Climate-Related Market Risk Subcommittee, Market Risk Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commodities Future Trading Commission. And I think we're continually moving into position with our sustainability department efforts, our multimodal transportation, our community support efforts across the board, looking at resiliency hubs. And I think our community, our residents, with the incredible expertise in this area of sustainability, environmentalism, are incredible. Everything's incredible. Our wildlife here, we've got this incredible system. I just think there's all kinds of areas to explore, and potentially, if we can continue to support not only ourselves but the rest of the community, being innovative in innovative ways. I'd love to share this with you to see if there's any space we could move into.
Sounds great.
The financial market as well.
Thank you.
When you're ready.
Day two.
Okay.
Day 3 is fine.
All right. Anything else from council? No, I'll just say we want to welcome you here to the city of Lafayette. I think you have such an amazing background that we can really take advantage of, having years of experience in a city very similar to ours, sharing a border, having that understanding of the same problems that we deal with here that you've dealt with over there, and also as a city manager as well, seeing that higher level, that kind of bird's eye view perspective on how finance really dictates everything and how it impacts all the city departments. Did you have any words that you'd like to share for us?
I'm really excited to work with you all, and it's great to be back in Boulder County and in Lafayette. It's exciting. Thanks.
Thank you. Would someone on council like to make a motion, please?
I move to approve resolution number 2025-48, appointing Heather Bosler as the city treasurer.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None opposed. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Welcome to the city.
Thank
Yes.
Okay, our final item for tonight on regular business is resolution number 2025-46, submitting to the electorate of the city of Lafayette at the November 4th, 2025 coordinated election, a certain question authorizing the issuance of debt and increase of taxes for the purposes described in the ballot question.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We're here tonight to talk about referring a capital bond ballot measure, and we have resolution number 2025-46 here in front of you and for discussion. I just want to recognize that we have tonight Butler Snow, and they are our bond counsel. We have Dalton Kelly here this evening behind us, as well as the team who's worked on this over the past almost 9 months. And then, of course, we've worked with Hilltop Securities as well, Maddie Prodanovich and Jason Simmons, and they are listening in, but they have helped us with all of the kind of financial analysis and crunching all the numbers around what the fiscal impacts will be to the city and as well as to the residents. So we'll just kick it off, and the agenda that we have for this discussion, we'll go through the background and the history of these conversations. We'll do an overview of the resolution and the ballot language in front of you, and then we have a motion this evening. Okay, so I'd like to just start with kind of a brief history of what we've been through over the past several months. Starting in January, we had some initial discussion on January 28th with council and brought forward some of our capital needs here at the city, which we've been talking about for the past several years. We went through some project prioritization together and some financial analysis and really started to kind of prioritize and narrow down what the greatest capital needs were here. We then started to look at what the poll scoping might look like if you were to start to gauge the community and what the needs are, and then move to conduct some community engagement and polling. Then in May, we brought back report and review of the findings of polling. And in July, we got final direction from you all to move forward with some ballot language. So during the time in between then and now, we've been doing some community outreach and engagement, some additional outreach and engagement, and tonight we're here with ballot language that reflects the direction that we got from you in July. So the next step will be to go to the voters on November 4th. So a little bit more about the project identification and financing options. You all considered capital project needs across the city of Lafayette, and we really were looking at kind of those most significant general funded capital asset improvements that would provide those improvements that are necessary to kind of better serve our Lafayette residents. And so we identified the Bob Berger Recreation Center, where we know we've had some challenges with our aquatic center and with those services. City Hall, which has needed some very significant kind of improvements, and also our services center at Parks and Public Works, which is where our operations happen for some of our critical operations with snow plows and basic operations in our parks, mowing, and lots of other kind of basic operations here for the city. We looked at long-term financing that would be required to support these types of projects, and we looked at some of our budget constraints and specifically looked at bond financing for either a sales or property tax repayment and considered what the options would be there. We then conducted a lot of community engagement to get some input and feedback from both council and the community around the capital projects. This included 9 public meetings. There were 6 city council meetings and 3 informational sessions. We did polling of nearly 800 residents and had survey responses from 230 respondents. Did some informal engagement through informational stations and at 3 public events, and then a lot of digital communications through social media and newsletters, an online engagement platform, and the website. We've more recently done some targeted information materials and reached out to registered voters with postcards and text messaging. Really wanted to make sure that we were reaching everyone and not just those who were kind of engaging in some of the more traditional formats. So based on the council recommendation that you gave to staff, which was to bring forward ballot language around the 3 projects, the Bob Berger Recreation Center, the Civic Center, and the Service Center, with a debt issuance of $74 million and a 20-year repayment plan, with an estimated annual tax increase for the average home, ranging from $270 to $280, depending on the kind of property tax year, because we have gotten new assessment data, but it's in that range. We now have a resolution for you that reflects this. So resolution number 2025-46. This authorizes the issuance of debt and increase of taxes for the purpose of constructing the capital improvements. So this would submit a ballot question to the voters at the November 4th, 2025 election to issue debt and increase the taxes for the construction of capital improvements for city purposes. And through the resolution, City Council authorizes and directs the officers of the city to certify the election question to the eligible electors of the city on or before September 5th, 2025, which is the filing deadline with Boulder County. This is the ballot language that the voters of the city of Lafayette would see on their ballot. So a couple things to highlight with the ballot language is that it includes funding for the recreation center improvements, civic center, and the service center improvements. It includes the debt increase of $74 million with a repayment cost not to exceed $120 million. And then it includes the purposes of the debt. And you can see the renovation and expansion of the VBRC and the construction of a new civic center and replacement of City Hall, and then the renovation and repairs to the existing Parks and Public Works Service Center. It also includes the property tax to be increased not more than $6 million annually to pay for the debt. And so that's the detail that would be in the ballot language. And we have a motion for you, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. I know we've had quite a few discussions on this already, but now that we see the language in front of us, does council have questions for staff? More questions? Any comments or discussion regarding this? No? Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I'll just echo what I've said before, that I do have some concerns around, the economy in the coming 3, 6, 12 months. So the timing just feels concerning, and especially in terms of increases for our, fixed income folks or low income folks. It's something we should always be aware of, but, I think a lot of good work has been done on all of these locations and on this specifically, so I'm supportive at this time, and I appreciate all the hard work that's been done.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, if there aren't any other comments or questions, Councilor Sampson.
Did we ever poll? We didn't poll with the actual wording at all. Did we poll like the debt to be increased 74 million with the total cost not to exceed 120 million?
We did, yes, we did.
Okay.
Yep, we polled both before providing educational information and after providing information about the projects, and we polled with almost, not this exact language, but almost the exact language.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And I'm assuming that what we're doing now is helping fill in the blank that's not in this language, which is, you had it on slides before, sorry, I can't find it in
It's
mine.
291.
Yeah, writing, how much does this really impact you? How does this, this is my life story right now. How are all these executive orders from the federal government impacting your particular program or your life? That's what we're doing, kind of letting people know? How would this impact them?
Do you mean just the blank space there?
No. The question in my mind, should I read this and never had read anything else? The first statement in my question would be, shall the city of Lafayette debt be increased by 74 million? Okay, what does that mean to me personally? What am I paying? So there's nothing in here that says, and can't.
Right.
This is how much, and again, it was in a slide.
Oh, how much you're.
Like how much it's going to impact.
How
each
much is
property
that? There it is.
Yes.
Yes. So we're kind of talking to the bottom part, the approximate 280 per year of your tax increase for an average home price, which is right now, what, 650, 700?
Yeah, 700. The new number that we have is 712. I was going to say 721, 712,000. Yeah, for an average home.
So that's what we're doing right now with our community engagement.
Yeah, so
letting people
we
know
sent
that.
out a postcard last week, and that provided the information of what basically a monthly cost would be, which is $23 per month for a $712,000, which is the average cost per home.
Yeah, and I think like to further on that, I think that's a valid point. Like folks want to know exactly how it's going to affect their bottom line. And so I think that's done through our marketing efforts rather than through ballot language.
I realize that. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that for folks too that are watching. But we do have a website, right?
We do.
Lafayette. It's like /capital bond.
Yep,
Trying to remember my lines.
Lafayette Listen /capital bond, and we will continue to have information where, you know, the information that we provided through the process that's, you know, basically factual information about, you know, how much this will cost will continue to be available.
Thank you.
Yes, we're under the fair, you know, once this, if this council takes a vote on this and it passes, we are subject to the Fair Campaign Finance Practices Act, which city attorney can tell you more about, but we, you know, won't be doing anything other than just providing that basic information to inform voters what this is, what the projects are, what the costs are, and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then obviously all prior materials that were provided to city council about the, you know, anticipated cost of the project are still available for people to do that research and understand that. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Gallegos.
I'm just curious about the listing order of the 3 projects. Are they prioritized in any way, or was it just randomly assigned?
I don't know. We did not prioritize them. I don't know.
No,
Dalton, if you have
they're
anything
not
to say
based
about
off
how
of,
they-
Dalton Kelly with Butler's Note. They're not based off a prioritized list. Ultimately, when you decide to issue bonds, if the electoral authority is granted by your voters, there'll be a bond ordinance that comes before this board. You'll decide how much to issue within the parameters set forth in the ballot question and decide which projects you want to finance at that time. I know there's been discussion about what goes first, what goes second, do we do these in phasing? You'll have the choice to do that then. What we tried to do with the parameters, talking with Hilltop, is there should be room to accommodate some changes in economics so that you can accomplish all 3. But really, with the order of the ballot, the bullets, I think it's just the way it came out of the survey is the way we originally put it in, or maybe alphabetical. There was no rhyme or reason, but to be very clear, any decision on priority, how much you want to issue, which projects you want to take on first, second, that is completely within the discretion of the city council if and when you have authority and you decide to issue bonds.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from council? Comments or questions? Okay. Then it looks like we need to make a motion and see how that goes. Whichever counselor feels ready.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-46, submitting to the electorate of the city of Lafayette at the November 4th, 2025 coordinated election a certain question authorizing the issuance of debt and increase of taxes for the purpose of the purposes described in the ballot question.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. That passes unanimously. Okay, thank you so much. And then do you have any next steps for us in regards to this? We anticipate to see.
So in terms of next steps, I'll let city clerk back share the process for, you'll submit it to the county?
Yes, so I can submit the, this content to the county now. I'll certify it with my stamp and everything and send it in, and they'll start putting sample ballots together for our review. And then I'll need to wait until after September 3rd for the ballot order for the candidates. So I'll probably send them 2 installments of our language.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then typically we ask council to consider a resolution of support. That is one thing that you can do as a council, usually a few weeks before the election. So we'll talk about that if you want to consider that.
Okay.
And then we'll get assigned a number. Yeah.
Yep. Great. All right. Well, thank you all. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll wrap up tonight with reports. City Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 items. The first is that with the passage of Resolution 46 that you just voted on regarding the ballot question. That does trigger certain restrictions under the Colorado Fair Campaign Practices Act, and I did provide council, city council, as well as all city employees and our members of our boards and commissions with a memo this week describing what those restrictions are, as well as what is permitted and allowable now that you have passed the ballot title for that question. So I just wanted to alert you to that. You should have that memo in your inbox. The second thing I have tonight, council, is regarding a potential rulemaking proceeding that the city can participate in. And so for the public's information and council's information, over the last 5 years or so, the city has participated in a couple of administrative rulemaking proceedings before the Colorado Air Quality Control Commission on proposed rules addressing ozone emissions and ozone precursors specifically related to oil and gas development. That is in line with council's climate action plan and sustainability goals that you've advanced over the last few years. These rulemakings have also addressed the state's implementation plan for meeting national air quality standards under the Federal Clean Air Act. And I'm providing that background because I would like to advise you that there is, that our oil and gas special counsel for the city has let us know of an opportunity to participate if the council desires to in another, in a new rulemaking proceeding that will have a hearing this November in which the division of, the State Division of Air Pollution Control has requested that the Air Quality Control Commission consider several rules that involve ozone precursors and harmful ozone emission regulations for various activities in the state, including oil and gas operations, which has been an area of interest for Lafayette, considering our proximity to Weld County, as well as oil and gas operations near and in our city. So I have provided some information to council on that this afternoon. This is coming to you rather quickly because requests for the city to participate were actually made last week, and the city manager did authorize our oil and gas council to include Lafayette in a local government commission coalition with 2 counties and 1 other municipality to participate in that rulemaking, and we went forward with that because it's easier to withdraw than it is to join after that deadline. So since that deadline did pass last week, we did go ahead and have the city join consistent with your past participation in similar rulemakings. However, this is ultimately council's choice and decision, and the city does not have to participate in this particular rulemaking or any other rulemaking, but you do have the option to do so. So I'm bringing this before you tonight to see if you would like to continue participating in this latest air quality control rulemaking. And if you're not ready to make that decision tonight and have questions, I can also follow up with you if you let me know that tonight as well.
Sounds
So
good.
just seeking your direction on this tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, thanks for that background. Is there anyone on council that would like to withdraw, or what are our opinions? Do we want to stay in these rulemaking conversations? What do you think, Councilor?
Yeah, I really appreciate our special counsel being proactive for us and helping us watch things at the Air Commission, which has a lot on their plates. So I really appreciate it. I'm supportive. I think it's a good idea. And I'd be curious if Councilor Barnes feels the same way, and if CC4CA is also a party to the rulemaking. We probably don't know that, but.
Thank you, Councilor. I run it through my head with all the things that are on the list. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that CC4CA is definitely into providing for anything in support of reducing environmental impacts. I don't see it yet, but I can check and see. There's a whole slew of hearings that where CC4CA is queuing up to represent in, so I can check. And I would say that. So I sat in on a Zoom meeting. I'm not sure if any other councilors were on the meeting yesterday on the impact to federal activities, the impact on our local Latino community. And one of the problems is that this community that's struggling is struggling to the point of not being able to get health care. And one of the equal opportunity issues that we have is the air quality. So I think there was an ask of elected officials to take care of this community. And I think this is, yes, there's funding involved to do this, but I would appeal to the other counselors on this council to consider ozone and ozone precursors are everywhere. And most of the disproportionately impacted communities and a lot of the members of the Latino community live in the places where the impact is worse. So the cost for inhalers for children, if you can't afford those, you don't get an inhaler, and these children are subjected to this. So I would hope that we would participate in this in order to do what we can to these communities to support them, because this is not something that's going to go away. It's every day that these communities, they're struggling, and now they've got environmental issues to deal with as well. So I think we should do what we can to support. And I'll check to see where CC4CA is on that with hearings. And thank you. Sorry that was long, but.
Okay. Okay, so are we all in agreement, or we have consensus at least to continue to be a part of this rulemaking process? Great. Okay, thank you, City Attorney.
Thank you, Council.
All right, City Manager's report.
Thank you and good evening again. So the first item that I have to report, we're really excited to announce that around lunchtime today, the 120th Street around the bridge opened back up. So you can kind of see that before picture up top, and now the new clean asphalt laid down. And so I know for those that have been very patient for the commute, having to go all the way around through Broomfield, I'm appreciative of the support that we have had both through the business community and our residents. The project isn't fully completed. We wanted to get it open as quickly as possible, so there'll still be some intermittent lane closures, but not a full closure by any means, and some shoulder work. So if people are seeing that there's still activity, there is, but it should be wrapped up here in the next week or so. Also want to remind you, the community and our community partners, that our mental health and human services grant application is open and closes on Monday, August 25th, so a little less than a week, at which point the board members will be reviewing the applications and council will see a recommendation towards the end of November. Also have several events coming up over the next week or so. As a reminder, the minimum wage fishbowl is being held in Longmont on Monday, August 25th. Thank you to Councilor Tapia Vega, who will be set up for that to represent City of Lafayette, as well as any other council member that wishes to view it. Also, we have our Dr. Coggs Award Dinner Wednesday, August 27th. We are very pleased to partner with BCHA and win one of the Vision Awards for the Willoughby Corner project. Our table is full, so very excited to have both partners from BCHA and council and some staff attend that. And then, as was noted earlier today, our boarding commission open house, our second annual now, is opening on Thursday, August 28th at the Ballburger Recreation Center. And then finally, wanted to note that Boulder County will be hosting a training session from August 5th to 29th. This is a coordinated training exercise for active threat. So there'll be multiple Boulder agencies participating in this. So the residents and the community members may see increased activity. Just want to make folks aware that by and large, this will be a training exercise. You do not need to call 911. However, if you do see suspicious activity, please don't hesitate ever to call 911, but there will be a lot more activity through those days. And so just spread the word for anyone that, especially the businesses and residents that are surrounding area, that they just will see some activity. It's a really good training opportunity for all of the agencies to work together proactively instead of in an actual response. And then finally, our workshop for August 26th. So it will be on the 2026 budget workshop. So I was gonna say, Morgan, don't take off too soon. We still have a few more things to get through, but we're very excited to kind of daylight this, talk about some policy options. And then your September 2nd meeting, you'll have ordinances from tonight on second reading. We will be doing a presentation on a pilot program, which is called Vacant to Vibrant, about our underutilized or vacant buildings and how to incentivize businesses to fill those. Also, Dr. Cog is working on a housing needs analysis and needs all of the partner agencies to do a presentation on that. And then we'll have ordinances, as noted tonight again, on your board and commission updates and a budget supplemental, as well as a resolution to solidify that funding that is coming from the affordable housing tax and an IGA with Boulder County to get those dollars out the door. That is what I have tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, council reports. Councilor Friedland?
Sure, thank you. A couple things from me. First of all, thank you to staff. Thank you to council for the work on the letter that we sent to air traffic control and Rocky Mountain Metro Airport. I think it was well written. It was well thought out, and it is out. So that thank you everybody for the hard work on it. Also, thank you to board member Gianola from SRAB for sharing the Climate Equity Fund information with us. There was a great conversation at SRAB last week on it, including a presentation from Boulder County staff who are working on it. I think if council has any thoughts or ideas on, folks that might be good to consider this, or folks out there listening, it's certainly a great one to consider. And I think especially, some of our mobile home parks or other community organizations that maybe want to think about weatherization, as Adam brought up during his public comments. Good opportunity. There's dollars out there, so that's fantastic. And certainly supported by SRAB for trying to get the word out. Councilor Barnes, you jumped one of my topics, which I appreciated. I thought it was a really interesting conversation yesterday that was held by Boulder County and Commissioner Loachman. And, two of the speakers, Sister Carmen and Clinica, obviously really important members of our community. So, I don't know if council's open to this, but I was thinking maybe we could bring it up in a new idea session and have more of a conversation then of, does it make sense for us to have a similar conversation in our community around impacts to the Latino community in Lafayette and sort of what's been going on? And Sister Carmen especially had some really interesting numbers that they were sharing of folks that have sort of just dropped out of receiving services for who knows why, potentially deported, afraid to, go places, and so I think it's an interesting conversation that might be worthwhile, and really important to specific members of our community as well. So I don't know if we want to think through how to do that, but.
Yeah, I think that's why that new ideas piece is there for our workshop. So in the meantime, if you want to consult with staff or any other members of the community or our neighbors, and then bring it up at that point, and then we can have a full, kind of more of a discussion on if and how we bring that forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's everything for me.
Thank you. Councilor Sampson.
No report.
Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Tomorrow night is Dr. Cog, and then there's also a consortium of cities. It just happens to land on the same date. So I don't know if anybody's available or who has some time tomorrow night that would like to attend the consortium. But if you do, let me know, because there is a meeting tomorrow night and I'm not able to cover both. So.
And is it in Boulder? No, what time? Where is it?
It is in Boulder, and I believe it's also.
Actually.
Louisville, oh. Okay. It's in Louisville. And it's usually starts at 5 and runs till 7.
6 to 7:30.
6 to 7:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the topic?
I may be able to.
They're talking about the emergency planning for the community, like Boulder County Sheriff's, Mike Chard, that kind of thing.
Nice. I could possibly attend, but I'm sure someone will reach out to you if they are. Okay. All right. Thank you. Is that all?
That's it.
Councilor Gallegos.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce, all of the sponsors, all of the volunteers for another successful Peach Festival. It was so well attended. I loved the energy while I was there. I still have some peaches left that I've been baking with. And I wanted to wish all of our students in our community a very successful and happy school year.
Thank you. Okay, Councilor Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. last week attended the Downtown Development Authority meeting and then a Senior Advisory Board meeting and then a CC4CA meeting. And then the same meeting with Councillor Freeland online. I don't know if anyone else, but it was really the candid discussion and transparency from the community was heart-wrenching. The disproportionate impact to the county's Latino community is just unacceptable to me. And whatever we can do to support, I think is super important to ensure that the NGOs who were there are supported by, continue to be supported by us. And I did write down these are the NGOs that were represented: the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, Clinica, Green Latinos, the Guatemalan Consulate, El Centro Amistad, the Latino Chamber of Commerce President, Sister Carmen, and of course, Councilor Martha Lochinen, Commissioner Lochinen. And it's critical. This was 2 elected officials. Then the ask was that the elected officials that we support them and that they start to work more together, and we support those NGOs to continue to ensure that they exist, because they are what's supporting our community. And that's why I made the connection to air quality, because that's one of the things brought up by the representative from Green Latinos, is that the people who are suffering are also living in places where there are impacts due to our changing environment. So that ties back to the other meetings that I've gone into, that I've had with the Downtown Development Authority. Supporting our local businesses is one of the ways to ensure that we're continue to support the community. With the fishbowl, hopefully Councilor Tapia Vega will be able to get some real clarity on how we continue to support the community for everybody, the small businesses. And I think at the DDA, we're trying to decide exactly how small is. But there's, 2, I think, is the smallest it gets. So we want to make sure everybody's included in those bits and pieces, and being able to get to those businesses and making sure those owners are continuing to function is critical. And I will say that the TIF assessment for the DDA won't be established until next year, January. But when it is, then we will know what our increment is to work from, and the projected operational budget over the, I think we're looking at the next 5 years, is around $300,000 a year to work with. So we plan to continue the contracts that Laura wanted, and that's parking agreements, that's maintenance agreements, but also definitely continuing to support the businesses in the DDA area. And moving from the CC4CA meeting, I was really inspired, even though there is a lot of talk about government officials not having jobs, especially related to anything in regards to our changing climate. One of the things that CC4CA has brought, and the president is going to write resolutions for cities that will pass a resolution in support of the 2009 EPA endangerment finding. And this year, the EPA proposed to rescind the endangerment finding, which had allowed for the regulation of greenhouse gas emissions from vehicles. It's part of a broader regulatory agenda aimed at reducing regulatory burdens on the auto industry, and is based on the assertion that the Clean Air Act does not authorize such regulations for climate change concerns. And the CC4CA has a draft resolution for municipalities, which are increasing in CC4CA. More municipalities are joining. And in short, it says in support of the endangerment finding, climate action plan or goals that reinforce your communities is part of the resolution. These commitments on the impacts of climate change are already evident, and many communities and nations are preparing for these impacts. Families, businesses, and organizations are already paying the price of climate change as healthcare bills are rising, insurance premiums are soaring, and extreme weather, wildfires, and droughts are impacting our physical and mental health, homes, jobs, and working lands and environment. The endangerment finding establishes science-based determination that greenhouse gas endangers public health and welfare, and its finding has served as the basis for climate action over the past 15 years and served as the basis for federal regulations that reduce toxic pollution from power plants, cars, trucks, oil and gas operations, ensuring cleaner air, safer communities, and more vibrant economies. The attack on this science-based finding by the federal administration will set back national progress on climate action and endanger the health, safety, and welfare of every Coloradoan. And this, I can send a copy if y'all are interested in making resolution for this. Basically, this is causing legal challenges for any agency trying to put forth rules that will help protect the United States, municipalities in the United States against climate and climate change. So a resolution saying that we support that finding from 2009 would say, hey, we understand that this is actually a problem to our for our communities health-wise and impacting the environment. Even in the economy, there are direct indications. And I don't have this verified, but from what I understand, there's up to 400 fatalities in Phoenix just from this last heat wave. Phoenix, from the heat this summer. And these are things we're not hearing. And I'm almost done. And the last thing I wanted to mention is I gotta give a shout out to the city of Erie, Colorado. On June 26, 2025, Drive Clean Colorado is happy to announce that the town of Erie has officially received a bronze Charging Smart designation, recognizing the community's leadership in electric vehicle readiness and sustainable transportation and infrastructure. The town of Erie is the first Charging Smart designee in the western United States. So even our neighbors are, right in there with us. So shout out to Erie. And the last thing is, if you want to know, there's a whole geothermal demonstration on how to do that this weekend. And someone named Hickenlooper, U.S. Senator Bennett will be there as well. It's going to be in the town of Hayden, Colorado. So there's a lot going on.
So drive to Hayden.
What's that?
So drive to Hayden?
Drive to Hayden. If you can in the morning, sure. Why not? And I forgot, the Senior Advisory Board did ask where we are in the IDEA work. And if there was any updates on when they'll hear more about that. I think that was right to our city manager. Sorry, that was-
No, I'm sure staff can give you an update.
Yep. That was long.
Tuesday,
Well,
September 16th, according to our calendar.
There we go.
Okay. All right, thank you all. Just for me, I did forward you a quick email if anyone's interested in a conversation regarding lead and aviation impacted communities, as forwarded on by a community member. Commissioner Ashley Stoltzman and Representative Kyle Brown will be a part of those discussions. So a member of council, if you, the details are in your email, so check that out if you want to join, please do. Thank you all so much for a great meeting, and meeting adjourned. Thank you.